Satyaloka. The highest intellectual and highest living entities live in those planets. And when they heard the extraordinary voice of the Lord, they could understand that the specific sound was vibrated by the Lord and no one else. Therefore they replied by praying to the Lord with Vedic hymns. The earth planet was submerged in the mire. But on hearing the sound of the Lord, the inhabitants of the higher planets were all jubilant because they knew that the Lord was there to deliver the earth. Therefore, Brahma and all the sages, such as Bhrigu, Brahma's other sons, and learned Brahmanas, were enlightened, and they concertedly joined in praising the Lord with the transcendental vibrations of the Vedic hymns. The most important is the Brihad Naradiya Purana verse. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A few things. Sometimes there's a confusion about, are there 4 Vedas or are there 3 Vedas? You've heard that confusion before. This is how Jiva Goswami explains it in very simple terms. Originally, Veda is one. And when Vyasa divided the Vedas, Vyasa means division. So he divided the Vedas into 4. One Veda became 4 Vedas, actually one Veda. The Vedas is one Veda. And the 3 are the Rig, Sama, and Yajurveda. And then there were some remaining verses which became the Atharva Veda, the 4th Veda. And even after all of that, there were some remaining verses which then became, in different Sanskrit, in Laukika instead of Alaukika Sanskrit. Vyasa made those remaining verses, as is described within the 4 Vedas, the 5th Veda. The 5th Veda, in the language of the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, is the Puranic section that what is traditionally or conventionally called Smriti. There's Shruti, that's the 4 Vedas. And then there's the Smriti that explains the 4 Vedas. The texts, more than one, multiple texts in the 4 Vedas say the 5th Veda is actually part of the original 1 Veda. But it's given a different name, Smriti, because it's explaining the 4, and it's in different Sanskrit. Different Sanskrit meaning Laukika is Sanskrit that's less complicated, and Alaukika Sanskrit is more complicated. And so, no surprise, intellectuals that know the Alaukika Sanskrit, they say, just see, this is, somebody else made this up. It's not part of the Vedas. It's modern composition. That's their take on it. And it's for people that are weaker in intellect, it's for those people. And the real Veda is these 4. That's commonly taught in educated circles, because they have, a franchise on the Vedas. you have to know, it's very difficult to know Sanskrit. Jiva Goswami sets the record straight, but back to the 3 Vedas or 4 Vedas, for that matter, 5 Vedas. The 4th Veda, the Atharva Veda, Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Veda. The subject matter of the Atharva Veda includes things like what Shringi did when he uttered a mantra to create a mystical snake bird that would kill Maharaj Pariksit. It's destruction kinds of mantras. Or what Vishwarup uttered to create Vritrasura, the demon that was to kill Indra. As far as that section of the Vedas, and so forth. No, it's not like black arts or something like that. It's the Vedas. Because black arts is something other than the Atharva Veda. But the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Veda, they are the 3 Vedas, as we know from Bhagavad Gita. Amongst them, the Sama Veda is considered superlative. And it is superlative because of the sweetness of the meter and how its composition. It's not that the message of Sama Veda is different than the other messages. They have specific departments or sections within each of them. So this, I don't want to go too much further. But the whole picture of the Vedas, it can be said that the 3 Vedas in the Bhagavatam, in some places it does. And elsewhere it sometimes does. That's the meaning. It's 3 Vedas, but 4 Vedas. Prabhupada didn't dwell on that distinction. He just commonly said the 4 Vedas. And it's perfectly correct to say the 4 Vedas, and the other is also perfectly correct. With the understanding that the Atharva Veda is also part of the Vyasadev's work of dividing the Vedas. The way that Jiva Goswami described what Vyasadeva did, making reference to scriptures, it's a really simple explanation. He says, supposing a king has treasury, and in his treasury there's jewels. And in previous ages, before Kali Yuga, the Brahmanas were so qualified that they didn't need the Vedas to be divided. They could just reach into this treasury and select this one, select that one, select that one, select the other one for the purpose of whatever the yajna was that was required, because they were so vastly learned. But in Kali Yuga, just like someone may be given the assignment by the king, put the diamonds over here, put the rubies over there, put the pearls over there, put the other ones over there. That's what Vyas did. Because he was qualified to know which mantras go together, for what purposes, and so forth, and that's what he did. Very simple explanation. So the one Veda, the treasure house of the treasury of the king, just got sorted out into different likenesses of verses for the purpose that Brahmanas in the age of Kali would have an easier time of knowing which verses to use. That's his explanation. And it's not just a creative idea. He gives a reference to scripture that explains it. So, now the residents of mentioned here Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. It's in the Sanskrit, it's Jana, Tapa, Satya. So the residents of those places. So that the structure of the universe made very clear in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Commonly people know the Rig Veda mantra that is the Gayatri mantra. Om Bhur, Bhuvar, and Svargaloka, Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Satyaloka. It doesn't identify in that mantra which planets are in those regions, but there are, without detailing, there are planets in those regions. The heavenly planets are above in this vertical dimension of the universe, just like the planets of this universe are within the stem of the lotus that, upon which Brahma appears, so that's the topmost planet, Satyaloka, Brahmaloka. And then there's 13 other planetary systems below him. There's 7 upper, 7 lower, making 14. So the earth is in the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Siddhaloka, and Rahu and Ketu, those other, they're in this other region. Then the heavenly planets, where the devas reside. And then there's 4 more above that. Brahmaloka is at the top of Satyaloka, but Maharloka, Janaloka, and Tapaloka. Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka. So in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there is description by Sanatana Goswami what goes on in those places. And very quickly, my memory isn't really sharp on this one. Well, we'll go down. From Satyaloka, the one down from that is Tapaloka. The Tapaloka is a place for celibates. The 4 Kumaras sometimes visit there, and others, and their activity primarily to meditation and discussion of philosophy. So very, very high, just like chapter 87 of Canto 10, this prayers by the personified Vedas. So this is that level of discussion. The Tapaloka folks, the way up there, just before Brahmaloka. And then down, there's, I can't remember which one. Does anybody know which one? Huh? Janaloka is next down. The Maharloka is the next down. Yes? The Maharloka is where celibate grahastas reside. They don't have families, but they're married, and they're engaged in sacrifice. Young kid. They're not interested in material prosperity. Worldly people are interested in material prosperity. They do yajnas for that purpose. And that's what the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas is about. How to do a yajna so you can get some material prosperity in this life, and after this life go to Swargaloka. the residents of Maharloka, they, they're not interested in material prosperity. They're interested in seeing Lord Vishnu, because their consciousness is so elevated that when they're doing yajnas and uttering mantras, where the bhokta of the yajna is Vishnu, just as in the Satyaloka region below, there is the same bhokta of the yajna, but these Prabhus, they just want to see the form of Lord Vishnu, who emerges from the fire with hands extended and receives their offerings. So they like to have long yajnas. And as soon as the yajna is finished, Vishnu recedes into the fire, and they get ready for the next yajna. And it's a place of sacrifice unto Vishnu. Sacrifice unto Vishnu is taught for people that are down here in Bhuloka, that sacrifice to Vishnu frees one from karma. They're already in that condition. They're just attracted to seeing Vishnu. And then there isn't a whole lot described of the planet, at least in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, of the planet just above them. Then it describes Sapaloka. So what is described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita is at the time of cosmic annihilation, they're partial annihilation, because there's multiple, but the two main ones are at the end of each day of Brahma, because in the morning, the next morning, Brahma he creates the part that was destroyed, but there's a partial devastation. And at the end of the day of Brahma, the partial devastation results in dry, insufficient rain, and the lower planetary systems become very dry. And then from the mouths of Ananta comes fire, and the fire engulfs those lower planets, including the heavenly planets and below. And it's so hot that the Maharloka residents, they somehow travel to the Tapaloka region, and they're welcomed for that period of time, the night of Brahma, and then afterwards they go back down, because then in the morning Brahma recreates that place, recreates from the heavenly planets down, so they can go back because it's not so hot anymore. Something like that. But their attraction is the principles of sacrifice. And the last point is, they have this, they're not covered by Maya in the sense of the illusion feature of Maya, because they're not attracted to enjoy the temporary with their senses. They're not attracted to that. They're beyond that. They still have bodies, because they're not at the standard of pure bhakti. And I'm going to have to, can we pause this for just a second? I'm going to have to take a little visit to the men's room downstairs. We begin with Prabhupada writes, Maya, Maya, Ksha Yushnu, Maya, Maya, Sukharasya. Word Maya, Maya is very significant in this verse. Maya means mercy, specific knowledge, and also illusion. So the residents of these higher planets, they weren't under the whammy of illusion, because illusion is the result of turning attention away. Bahir mukha, jiva, the living entity, turning attention away from the Supreme. Now, they're not perfected beings, otherwise they'd be in Vaikuntha. But their attention is towards the Supreme. It's something akin to the stage of nishtha. In the stage of nishtha, the coverings of the soul are practically, in the language of the Bhagavatam, nearly gone. Nearly gone means there's still some residual trace, but the force of bhakti is so strong they don't manifest. Clear? Some residual covering, just like, say, clouds in the sky. When there's very light clouds in the sky, there's still clouds in the sky, but they're not sufficient to block the light of the sun. But it's different than if it's a cloudless sky. Something like that. Nishtha stage. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya mangalati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Naishtaki. That nishtha, same dhatu, same root. Practically, the language, the translation, is practically destroyed. Not fully destroyed. Well, how come? Because it's just a stage. They keep going and it's fully destroyed. The Avadras are fully destroyed, but there's a stage where they're... So there's a stage for these residents of these higher planets. They're not ready for Vaikuntha yet, but they're qualifying themselves to become residents of Vaikuntha by this method and that method, and the time was just Brahmaloka. So when they hear this tumultuous roar, they're not fearful. They just by that sound vibration they can understand, and they reply. They reply in a fitting manner. The fitting manner is they offer Vedic hymns from the three Vedas. Not for the purpose of getting something material, as is done in the lower, below those planets, to get something. So the advice of the Bhagavatam is, and Bhagavad Gita, one shouldn't neglect prescribed duties. Because neglect, like Arjuna, neglect of his prescribed duty would result in sin. When he was arguing, if I do my duty, I'll incur sin. But so he got course adjustment by saying that duty is to satisfy Vishnu. And then killing, which shouldn't be done, is free from sin, because it's dharma yuta. Anyway, so that's Dharmasya, Canto 1, Chapter 2. Dharmasya hi apavargasya. Dharma, prescribed duty, or yajna, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, he, this means certainly, should be for apavarga. Apavarga means liberation. Pa varga is karma kanda. Pa varga is the path of fruitive activities. And apavarga is the path of liberation. So dharma should be performed for the purpose of ultimate salvation. Or ultimate salvation means devotional service, pure devotional service. Dharma should be performed for that purpose. We're not required to do rituals. Our primary is this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and if we do that, there's no, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. And if you think, well, I'm doing all this devotional service, but what about this ritual, that ritual, and expectations of family members that I'm supposed to do these dharmic things, like my grandmother says, shame on you. And just in case you have that doubt, oh, you're being neglectful of some ritual that you're supposed to do, aham tvam sarva papi moksha yashami ma suchaha. So we may do some rituals, that's not a difficulty. Those rituals, if done, should be done for the satisfaction of Vishnu only. So they're chanting that they're doing Vedic activity, not for the purpose of getting something, but for the purpose of satisfying Vishnu. And then there's the platform, there's the Vaikuntha platform. The Vaikuntha platform